Honored Madam Rector, representatives of the Ministry of Education and Culture, dear invited guests, dear delegates of the 8th World Conference of Science Journalists. On behalf of the Finnish Association of Science Editors and Journalists, I am happy to welcome you to the opening ceremony held here in the beautiful Great Hall of the University of Helsinki. Thank you also to the wonderful folk dancing and folk music group Katrilli. It gets its name after a dance known in English as a quadrille. Firstly, there is a slight change in the program because the president of the Norwegian Academy of Science and Letters is unfortunately unable to attend, but her announcement on the Kavli scholarships will be delivered at the end of the ceremony, along with the other announcements about the conference by the conference's project manager. This year, the World Conference of Science Journalists has drawn more than 800 registrants. You come from all over the world, from Egypt and Brazil, from Iceland and Swaziland, from Samoa and South Korea. By my count, you represent 77 countries altogether. This means that some 40% of all the countries in the world are represented, depending, of course, a little on how you calculate the number of countries in the world. And as we science journalists know, this is not altogether a straightforward endeavor. But what great numbers, what great diversity, and what a great opportunity to come together to discuss the theme of this opening ceremony, freedom of expression, and what it means for us as science journalists. Are we free to pose any questions we like? And equally importantly, are scientists allowed to look for answers to any questions of their choice? Science can be muzzled not only on political grounds, but also due to economic or ideological reasons. What role can we as science journalists play as watchdogs guarding the freedom of expression? These questions and others will be discussed in our opening ceremony. And first, today, I am happy to hand the word to my co-host, Professor Tapio Markkanen, Chair of the Finnish National Committee for UNESCO and a member of the conference's organizing committee.
Madam Rector, dear invited guests, dear colleagues. The theme of this opening session today really is freedom of expression. I would like to touch upon a couple of issues which bring together our conference here in Helsinki and the goals of UNESCO. In the United Nations family, UNESCO is relevant in two roles for our conference. Firstly, UNESCO has the UN competency on science, education, culture, and communication. Secondly, UNESCO is the only United Nations organization that by its constitution requires its member states to anchor the UNESCO activities into the civil society. That's why all member states are compelled to appoint a national commission for UNESCO in each country. The National Commission is a link between UNESCO and the civil society by its member being appointed from different professional organizations, but first of all representing the civil society. Not a very long time ago, science communication was understood as experts and professionals informing the general public about new amazing discoveries and inventions of research. That's still valid today and very relevant. But in the modern world, that is no longer enough. When facing problems like climate change or thriving for a society that would be sustainable economically, environmentally, and socially, we need citizens' inclusion, participation, and interaction. Here, the science journalists have a very special role in mediating, facilitating, and helping the public debate to start and go on to fruitful goals and results. More than ever, the public debate about relevant questions, methods to apply in research, ethics, and how the results shall be applied at the end. Here also the freedom of expression also comes into play. Quite some time ago already, the media literacy as a concept is a central activity and target of UNESCO education programs. It's a big challenge how to educate people to act with a critical mind in a public sphere. The history of Finland is a striking example of how education brings about empowerment. The public general education in this country started step by step after the middle of the 19th century. A generation later, the Finnish women started asking for public health care with remarkable consequences. Ability leads to responsibility. The lesson has been taken seriously. For decades, Finland has been assisting other countries in building up their communication systems, public communication systems, radio, television, newspapers, journals, etc. Quite recently, this is capacity building. Quite recently, Finland contributed 2.3 million euros to support UNESCO's activities, especially in the field of freedom of expression. Talking about lessons, concrete objects or pieces of demonstration are a good pedagogical tradition since the times of Socrates, St. Paul, Comenius, you mentioned it. I also brought one with me. In 2002, Finland entered the Eurozone of the European Union. Euro replaced our old currency, markka. Somebody might have noticed that my family name is Markkanen. They have common origin. So afterwards you can tell your friends that in Helsinki you heard really money speaking, money talking. Well, the piece of demonstration. Here you see 1,000 markka banknote, as it used to be. And I think everybody in this hall, among you, would immediately recognize the face on the bill. At least you should. Because he was the one who initiated and pushed through with tremendous effort the first law of freedom of expression ever as a member of the parliament of the Swedish estates. That happened in 1766. His name is Anders Chydenius, and he was a Finn. It's a piece of irony of history that after about 2 decades, that wonderful law was abolished by King Gustav III of Sweden, and he was considered to be a ruler of the time of enlightenment. Political power is seldom at ease with things like freedom of expression. We have to keep that in mind. I was not telling this piece of the past in order to boast how smart people were once upon the time. The point is that when it comes to the freedom of expression, we have a long way to go. We are not yet. It's a long way to go even if one was able to start early. We have to go and move on. That's why we all are here in Helsinki. Let's start our work. I wish we will all benefit from the debates, deliberations, workshops, and talking and listening to each other. Good luck. Thank you very much.
And now we will hear from our first speaker, who brings a greeting on behalf of our generous hosting institution, the University of Helsinki. Please welcome Interim Rector Ulla-Maja Forsberg.
Distinguished invited guests, speakers, colleagues, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of the University of Helsinki, I have the great pleasure to wish you all welcome to our university, to Helsinki, and to the 8th World Conference of Science Journalists. It is a great honor for our university to have the opportunity to host this excellent conference. And its opening with so actual theme, freedom of expression, as we have heard, in such a global environment. I'm really, really happy to see so many people, so many faces from so many countries around the world. And as the conference site announces, this conference provides excellent opportunities for science journalists and communications professionals to meet and to engage in international dialogue with researchers, decision makers, and citizens. University of Helsinki is a world-class university with a highly multidisciplinary and global profile. In the strategic plan for the years 2013-2016, and in accordance with its vision, Excellence for Society, the University of Helsinki will consolidate its position among the leading multidisciplinary, research-intensive universities in the world. The university actively promotes the well-being of humanity and a just society. The other slogan for the strategic period is "the best for the world." which I have to say in the original Finnish version, maailman parhaaksi, is still slightly better, as it also has another meaning, aiming to be the best in the world. Perhaps really not exactly number one. We also have a little bit of realistic thinking in our community. But still, in the strategic plan, our main objective is to rank among the 50 leading universities in 2020. This is a tough goal, but not totally unrealistic. Ranking among the best 100 universities is in practically all the global league tables. The total position is not far from the goal. Earlier this year, an American agency made a comprehensive list and a kind of meta-ranking on the basis of 9 major global rankings, and the score for the University of Helsinki was 56. We are very proud of this achievement. It is often said that you cannot climb high on global rankings if you don't have a faculty of medicine. We do, and they do an excellent work. But what we are especially proud of is our multidisciplinaries, that many other faculties and disciplines today are also highly ranked and recognized, especially on the global lists made by subject areas. Not only medicine, physics and other hard, of course very important sciences, also studies in arts or humanities and social sciences are climbing high on the lists. Subjects like education, linguistics, the study of English language and literature, for example, have been ranked among the top 50 in the world in the latest QS ranking by subject. And perhaps not surprisingly, research in communication was one of the subjects listed in top 50 this round. In fact, it was the second best score after research in education this year, 38 in the world. The university has also intensified the education in science journalism for postgraduate students, and the interest towards these studies is growing all the time. We see the importance of communication between media, researchers and the society. Needless to say, communication brings along a win-win situation where benefits can be seen for all parts. And finally, also the university will gain from this fruitful collaboration. You as participants of the conference are hopefully looking forward to an intensive working week with lots of fruitful discussions. I hope that you will also have the opportunity to enjoy the social program, as well as take a look at what the University of Helsinki has to offer for you. Our Think Corner, a relatively new communication concept of our university, which started last year as a part of the World Design Capital program. It has recently opened in the new premises in the Portania building. You are very welcome there. For those who are interested in architecture, I warmly recommend a visit to our new city centre library, only a few hundred meters away. A gorgeous, newly erected infrastructure for arts and social sciences, and a very beautiful house. So once again, you are cordially welcome to Helsinki to enjoy the summer in Helsinki, and I wish you all a very successful conference and a happy stay in Helsinki. Thank you.
Next we will hear a greeting from the Finnish Ministry of Education and Culture. The ministry's support has been instrumental for the conference and for the organization of this conference. Please welcome Director of Science Policy, Riitta Maijala.
Distinguished guests, dear participants, dear ladies and gentlemen, I have a great pleasure on behalf of the Ministry of Education and Culture to welcome you all to this very interesting conference here in Helsinki. I'm happy to see you all here. An open, fair and confident Finland. This is the target of the Finnish government program. This goal is not a modest one when the complexity of the world is growing and at the same time we are faced with grand challenges and financial constraints. Finland's success as a sustainable welfare state is dependent on high employment rate, which is based on expertise and creativity. As an export-led economy, the competitiveness of Finland requires a well-functioning education, research and innovation system, the so-called knowledge triangle. But how are we ensuring that our knowledge triangle delivers what it should be? First, by structures. Our higher education system consists of two complementary structures, universities and polytechnics. The universities reform in 2010 enlarged autonomy of universities by reducing the steering by the state and by giving for universities an independent legal personality. They are no longer a part of state administration, but in terms of their main mission, education and research. With this autonomy, Finnish universities can enhance the quality and impact of their education and research. For this, open dialogue with the society in large and expression of views are key elements for success. Currently, the steering and funding systems of polytechnics are under reform to enhance their structures and to improve their quality and impact of their operations. The second element is openness in science and research. The European Commission concludes in its background note on open access to publications and data in Horizon 2020 that fuller and wider access to scientific applications and data can help to accelerate innovation and to foster collaboration and avoid duplication and effort. Furthermore, it can help to build on previous research results and to involve citizens and society by improved transparency of the scientific process. Especially the last one, involving citizens and society, links open access very closely to the theme of this conference and freedom of expression. Open access, by providing online access to scientific information that is free of charge for readers, can create new opportunities for scientific research and science journalism to meet and lead to a fruitful dialogue. But it can also challenge the scientists and the media for new types of interactions with citizens who suddenly will have free access to major scientific publications and the data behind those publications. The Ministry of Education and Culture is very committed with open science. It carries out, together with other public players, the National Research Data Initiative. This initiative is to tackle the challenges of opening data, supporting the open access to publications, and to create new opportunities for research and innovation. The other key electronic infrastructure currently under construction is the National Digital Library. This initiative works as an aggregator for the European Digital Library Europeana. It aims to ensure that information of our culture, heritage and history is safely stored, easily found and actively used. This will benefit learning and research and offer new possibilities for the creative industries and artists. Test version of the public interface called Finna was published already December 2012. Today, more than 8 million entries are on the website of Finna, serving everyone searching for information or experiences. Ladies and gentlemen, autonomous universities, together with open science, provide a strong basis for the dialogue on scientific issues, not only among scientists, but also with the science journalists and with the whole society. I believe that openness is essential to understand the grounds of expressed views and, if so wished, to further analyze the reasoning behind the views. However, is it enough to have structure supporting open dialogue? How can we ensure that our citizens are interested and willing to take part into these discussions? Equal opportunity in education is the underpinning of Finnish welfare. We have an excellent comprehensive school system according to OECD PISA surveys. When the world is becoming more complex and many technical innovations are changing our lives, increasing emphasis has to be placed in education on the need to develop also scientific reading abilities from preschool to higher education. The responsibility for this lies with the school system, the scientific community, and the whole society. Therefore, it is not surprising that based on the Finnish Science Barometer 2010, most of the citizens in Finland are following with interests science, research, and technology. In fact, after armed forces and the police, it is the scientists the Finns trust. The results might be different in different countries, as we have today. And perhaps the most expressive result of this survey was on the scientific literacy in Finnish population. 3 out of 4 respondents agreed that conflicting opinions are a fundamental part of science. This strength in our society helps us to build further the open dialogue and expression of even divergent scientific views. Dear participants, future of science and society is in youth. Freedom of expression views is a key tool in building an open, fair, and confident Finland. Open dialogue is essential to ensure that our knowledge triangle can deliver what is expected. Enhancing the autonomy of higher education organizations, building up tools for open science, and supporting science education within the whole education system are key actions by the Ministry of Education and Culture to support this future. I'm convinced that this conference will allow us to discover, debate, and open our minds to new perspectives. I wish you all a very good conference. Thank you.
Our next speaker is the president of the 2013 World Conference of Science Journalists, as well as of the Finnish Association of Science Editors and Journalists, Satu Lipponen. Satu will speak on the theme Meaningful science journalism needs freedom.
Dear friends, science journalists are an integral link between society, science and journalism. One cannot help thinking that this role is vital, and it is, especially now that the universal news agenda is crumbling down. We have social media and we have new tools for personalized communication. So what is so special about journalism? Journalism is a political movement. It's based on the idea that the free human being is expressing he or herself and his and her opinions. It's a rather romantic thought. But this is the value base that democracies fully endorse. But can we never be really free to express anything we want? No, because freedom comes with responsibilities. This ethical code should bind all journalists worldwide. This is what we cherish in ability to express in an attractive manner. Otherwise, we would be just like everyone else. So we will start this conference with ethical reflection. One thing all people in this room here share is a love for knowledge. Both journalists and scientists are very devoted to their work. Evidence and wisdom are part of knowledge. Using evidence and wisdom for the benefit of society means good decision-making, justice for all, quality stories and professionalism. So on the second day, our theme is our exciting work. We will then explore core skills across cultures, hear voices from different parts of the globe, and take a look into new ways of doing science journalism. We in the Finnish Association of Science Editors and Journalists have talked much about identity of science journalists. According to a recent poll among our more than 1,000 members, identity was an important question. People want to belong to a group and get support from each other. My memorable moment was participating in the World Conference of Science Journalists in Melbourne 2007. I realized that our group, around 20 people, had so many talented individuals. And I could learn a lot from them. Jari Mäkinen, our space expert, gave a lecture of southern skies with a stellar insight, and I will never forget that moment. Peer-to-peer is very important, and I will strongly encourage you to all be active in your associations. Global megatrends are obvious: energy, vulnerable planet, big data, data journalism, marketing, governments, denialism, climate change. Yes, science journalists are very much needed. The internet has provided us with wonderful tools, but it seems to be also a huge spying machine. This is not a great surprise, but it needs to be evaluated with the professional ethos of science journalism. What is important and what is not. So we will end our conference with grand challenges that are facing mankind. Science journalists are part of that solution. They are independent minds working according to the best practices of their profession. We have to be open to our mistakes and learn from each other. This is why peer-to-peer networking and informal discussions are the best part of this conference. I warmly welcome you to participate and make this a landmark event. I am very thankful for the past World Conference organizers and representatives of the World Federation. You had made an invaluable work, and this conference has had a huge benefit from your efforts. My special thanks go to the University of Helsinki. It has given us this wonderful venue. Ministry of Education and Culture made this conference possible. Tieteen tiedotus gave us support in a very crucial time. Gold sponsors Qatar Foundation and Johnson & Johnson Innovation offered good resources. Media partners Nature and SciDevNet have promoted our conference very well. And also I want to thank and remind that this conference would not be like this without hundreds of hours of voluntary work. Thank you for the executive board of the FASE, organizing committees, subcommittees, and the conference secretariat. You did your job well. Now it is the time to get to the business. Let's discuss science, journalism, and make a difference to a global agenda. Thank you.
And now we will hear from the president of the World Federation of Science Journalists, Vesa Niinikangas. The title of Vesa's talk is Curiosity Flowers in Freedom of Expression.
Satu said to me that it's dangerous to use these machines for your speech, but it opened. So, dear friends in science journalism, dear friends of science in journalism, curiosity flourishes in freedom of expression. When I was 17, it was a very good year. I had started as an editor-in-chief of a teenage magazine and began to practice radio reporting. My father admired journalists. He said that they can go everywhere and ask whatever questions they want and find out secrets and then tell stories to other citizens. He admired journalists in spite of the fact that a journalist, his elder brother's best friend, who was living with them, shot himself in their house. My father was 17 years old at that time. He wanted me to become a journalist. I was not so sure about that. I was worried that I was lacking something journalists should have. I said that I am not curious enough. I was a boy who wanted to write poems. I have read Albert Camus, and I felt like an outsider. I like to walk alone on the shady side of the street on dark, rainy November evenings. My poems were about loneliness in the cosmos. From my side, it was not a scientific interest at that time. My father didn't give up. He said that I can find my curiosity. He advised to listen to people who tell stories, especially old ones. I was too busy to do that because the world had to be saved. Stop the hunger in Biafra and the war in Vietnam, and to build homes for the homeless. But I followed my father's advice later on. I found my hidden curiosity by coming out of my cosmos and by listening to people's narratives and by analyzing their enthusiasm, creativity, curiosity, and their ability to focus and to keep listeners' attention. Curiosity starts wheels rolling, makes things start happening, makes ideas develop into research, results, and innovations. Human beings are wise enough to understand that although curiosity is a premise, the world would be an odd place if people keep asking questions and no one gives any answers. Curiosity flourishes wherever people are free to express themselves. But curiosity never dies, as we have learned from history, and recently from post-communist countries in Europe and from the Arab Spring. It may be hidden underneath or behind codes. It may be within an inch of its life, but it still keeps on living. From curiosity grow storytellers, people who, with the knowledge of thoughts, know how to ask relevant questions in order to find out what is going on and then frame their findings in a broader context and tell about them to others. They include researchers, journalists, authors, and here today they are science journalists. One of my favorite philosophers, the German Georg Simmel, writes in his excellent essay, Bridge and Door, from 1909, that the human being is the bordering creature who has no border. There is no limit to human curiosity and imagination. Simmel says that only a human being can connect what is separated and separate what is united. Bridge and door, human innovations, represent Simmel's idea well. A door limits the inside from the outside. It gives us a possibility to close the world out of our domestic being, but at the same time, just by opening the door, to connect our private area with public areas outside our home. Simmel writes that the mobility of the door illustrates a possibility at any moment of stepping out of this limitation of freedom. The media used to be a gatekeeper and agenda setter in the public sphere. Today, almost anyone can open whatever gate and set up an agenda in the society. Communication technology has opened doors to borderless public spheres, to unequaled freedom. How do we, science journalists, orientate in this new world order? Thank you.
And lastly, please welcome the conference's project manager, Minttu Hildén, who has some announcements for us. She will begin by announcing the scholarship call for the Kabli Prize events in Oslo, Norway.
Dear all, I would also like to welcome you to the 8th World Conference of Science Journalists on behalf of the Conference Secretariat. Before we begin the welcome reception, we have a few announcements. The Norwegian Academy of Science and Letters announces their international competition to win travel grants. For the second time, the World Federation of Science Journalists and the Norwegian Academy of Science and Letters invites science journalists from all over the world to apply for travel scholarships. Be one of the 5 journalists who get the opportunity to step into the fascinating world of astrophysics, nanoscience, and neuroscience. Meet and exchange with the winners of the Kavli Prize awarded in these 3 fields, and take part in all the events during the Kavli Prize Week in Oslo, Norway, 8th to 11th September 2014. Norway's King Harald will present the Kavli Prize to the laureates. The scientific program will include the laureates' lectures and popular science lectures by some of the world's leading science communicators. There will also be symposia in astrophysics, nanoscience, and neuroscience, where international experts within these fields will participate. The Kavli Prize Science Forum was established to facilitate high-level global discussion of major topics on science and science policy. Science and education is the most likely topic for next year's Science Forum. And the entry guidelines. The World Federation of Science Journalists will run the competition and be solely responsible for the selection of the winning journalists. The jury, a subcommittee of the World Federation Board, will select the 5 journalists on the basis of submitted work and an essay describing what they would do if they get a scholarship. Applications must be received before 31st January 2014. The winners will be announced at the American Association for the Advancement of Science annual meeting in Chicago in February 2014. The president of the Norwegian Academy of Science and Letters, Kirsti Strombul, should have been here to announce the scholarships, but because of a bicycle accident, she could not travel to Helsinki. She wishes to greet all the participants at the World Federation's 8th World Conference. Science journalists do a very important job in making science accessible to many people. It is also important that science journalists keep on shedding a critical light on science. The Kavli Prize is a partnership between the Norwegian Academy of Science and Letters, the Kavli Foundation USA, and the Norwegian Ministry of Education and Research. Anne-Marie Astad, over here, from the Norwegian Academy, can give more information about the competition and the Kavli Prize. There are also some practical details that I would like to go over with you. At the registration desk, you were given your delegate bag and also an envelope that includes many important items. The green travel card allows you to use the public transportation for free in the Helsinki city area during the conference week. Also, a list of all the social events that you have registered for is printed on the envelope. Please note that registration in advance is required for all the social events, and unfortunately, most of the events are already fully booked. Tonight we will have pesäpallo, Finnish rules baseball, and also a cycling tour and sauna. The departure for both of these events will be from the university right after the welcome reception at 6:30. If you have registered for the Helsinki City reception, that is tomorrow, you will find an invitation for it from your envelope. Please remember to bring the invitation with you tomorrow to the reception. And tomorrow we will begin the program already at 8 o'clock with Hans Rosling's plenary talk, but on Wednesday and Thursday the program begins at 8:30. All the plenary sessions will be held here in the Great Hall, and the program handbook can be found from the delegate bag, and it includes the conference program and also a map of the university to help you find your way around. I would really like to wish you a wonderful time during the conference week here in Helsinki. And now we will have an announcement from Riitta Mustonen, the Deputy Director of Nordforsk. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, dear guests, on behalf of Nordforsk, I would like to warmly welcome to you all to this welcome reception, which will take place right after this opening ceremony at the University Great Hall foyer. You can find it outside. Just a couple of words of Nordforsk. Nordforsk is a Nordic research funding and research policy organization. Our main funding comes from Nordic Council of Ministers and from additional funding we get from Nordic research funding agencies. We want to promote research, excellent research, when it gives value, added value at Nordic level. Our goal is also to promote and improve dialogue with the research community and public. But now you are all welcome to this welcome reception. Thank you.